If you enjoy what we do on these podcasts, please go to mwpnews.com. There you can see articles about some of the movies we've seen, some things that we don't talk about on podcasts, and links to ways you can support the show. Thank you. Good morning, or afternoon, and welcome to Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. I am Adam. On this, the first episode we're going to be doing over here. So basically, for those who don't know, and are subscribed, over on Beware of Spoilers, anytime there's a new TV show of interest, we do episode-by-episode recaps, where we talk about what happened in the episode and all of that. I had the thought earlier this year, after The Acolyte, like, why am I doing these for the Star Wars shows, like, you know, The Bad Batch and The Acolyte? Why am I doing them here? And I think fundamentally the question is, I was like, why don't we just move it over to Explore Hyperspace Lanes? So even if Josie's busy, we could still have something going up on that feed. So that's what we're doing. So here, we're going to talk about the first two episodes of Skeleton Crew. And then from here on out, anytime we have a new Star Wars show, we're going to talk about that. But also, over on 30-minute reviews, we do, like, recaps of shows and movies as we get into, you know, new releases. So, like, next week over there starts the rewatches leading into Brave New World. Now, we're going to do a similar thing here with Andor, which is going to start early next year. As we get ready for Andor Season 2. And then late next year, we're going to be doing the same thing with The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett as we get into the prep for The Mandalorian and Grogu. So about this time next year, we'll be almost done with Season 1 of The Mandalorian rewatch as we prep for that mid-May release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. Assuming it doesn't get delayed, of course. If it gets delayed, then we won't do that until we know when it's coming out. I don't think it will get delayed, though. I think that is very much coming out when it does. So, regardless, programming notes aside, and Josie will be back. She's just been dealing with issues in her personal life, and she's been busy. And then I had my car accident, and then I got sick, and, you know, we're playing the catch-up game. So we will be back. Probably, I would say she's probably going to be back in January. But we'll see. It might be sooner than that. And we'll continue our quest to rank and discuss every Star Wars book, movie, show, and video game. But yeah, so sorry about the cough. I'm still getting over this illness. It's a sinus infection, and it's still a work in progress getting rid of it. Now, let's talk about Skeleton Crew. For those who don't know, I have not been overly optimistic on Skeleton Crew. I didn't think it looked great. I didn't think there's anything about it that was really like, okay, let's get this, you know, going and let's watch it. And then yesterday there was that news that broke where it was like they moved it last week from Tuesday to Monday. So like from here on out, this episode will go up on Wednesdays. Because we'll record it Wednesdays. It'll be late in the day. Actually, not even next week. I think I have class next week. I think Wednesday's my last class. Either way, point is, you know, we're going to have this be, you know, it'll be on Wednesdays instead of on Tuesdays. And what problem we've come to with this is they moved the release date so that way the episode was airing 2 hours after the advanced screenings they were doing for fans, where there were these free fan screenings all over the country. I found out about it too late, and also I wasn't going to go all the way into New York City to watch the first two episodes of a TV show 2 hours early. If Disney doesn't want to give me shit, I'm not going to do that. That's not worth my effort. But regardless, the point is, you know, that happened. The review embargo for the show lifted as the show was airing. So I was kind of like, ooh, I don't know if this is necessarily something that, you know, is a good sign for this show. And I think there's enough hit or miss here where it's like, I don't think it's all bad. I think there is enough, there are some interesting facets that are grabbing my attention. But I don't think it's enough to really be like a perfect, totally watchable show. About halfway through the first episode, I was kind of like, if this wasn't Star Wars, I would have turned it off by now, which has been kind of my prevailing issue with a lot of these, where it's like, not just this, but also, what's it called? Like, this also applied to, what was the other show? It was a Marvel show where I was like, I don't know, if the Marvel Studios logo wasn't in front of this, I wouldn't be watching it on a weekly basis. I don't know what it was. Probably What If. Oh no, WandaVision. WandaVision was the one where I was like, I don't know if I would watch this on a weekly basis if it weren't for the Marvel Studios logo before it. I do feel kind of the same way as I sit here and talk about this, where it's like, I would have given up, and I don't think there's anything in the second episode that makes me go like, I would have done it. Like, I thought it was cool in the beginning of the first episode, where you see the boarding party of the pirates, and like, it's very clearly shot in a way where it is designed to be it's designed to be an homage to A New Hope, like very clearly, like down to beats, down to, you know, speech cadences, all that stuff is all very clearly designed to evoke A New Hope, and that's kind of cool. The issue is once we get to the kids, I don't think the kids are bad actors, and I don't want to come off that way. We don't have any, you know, any annoying children acting. I think that by and large the kids are endearing enough. I think the material the kids are given to work with is not great. Because, like, basically what we're dealing with here is the kids are, and here's the issue. Like, and there's a little bit of mystery that goes into this around episode 2. And again, spoilers, because this is a new thing we're doing here. But the issue that I have with this is, in the first episode, we get this cool moment where we're talking about, like, oh, here's a Republic official, and he's here to talk about that. And the show opens with text on the screen. The New Republic is here trying to keep order in the galaxy. All right, great. So this whole thing is like, you know, the New Republic has this aptitude test that they make the kids take. This test determines what their role is going to be in the New Republic, or in the Republic. And I'm like, oh shit, that's cool. I like that idea. And I think that that's something that would be interesting to play with as a concept. This idea that, like, oh, and it's kind of the thing that we've been seeing a little bit with why is Andor where it is in the timeline, what they've been doing with The Mandalorian. It's this idea that, like, why does the Empire come back or never really go away? And it's because the Republic is kind of just the Empire under a new name. Where it's this idea that, like, you know, like the big example of that is in episode 3, where it's like of The Mandalorian, where it's like episode 2 of season 3, where it's an episode where it's talking with Katie O'Brien, whose character's name I'm forgetting, Isla Kane, that's her name. But either way, that episode we spend with her is, you know, they have the thing that has the brain wipe, you know, and it's like, look, we use this, you know, to do. It's like, why does it go all the way up to 10? We never put it all the way up to 10. It's like, no, but you can. Like, that capability is still there. You still can do that. And then it's like the idea of the loyalty pledges with the, you know, with the government, and how it's like, oh, well, if they're not going to be part of the Republic, we're not going to go out and help them, which is just leading to more animosity, and it's creating a situation where the Empire can come in and serve in that role. It's all that kind of stuff. So this idea that when this episode opens and we see this kid kind of having to deal with like, oh, I am like 9 years old and my entire life is about to be decided for me based on this test, it's an interesting place to put this kid. And it's an interesting thing to do to the world. The problem is, episode 2 kind of flips it entirely on its head. Because, like, when he throws the credits at the kid in the first episode, he's like, here's your lunch money, I'll be away working for the next week, you know, you gotta just pay for yourself. Like, here's your lunch money, have fun. Like, when that happens, the idea that, you know, when they get to the spaceport, like, it's a cool idea to have to be like, oh, these are not, you know, these are not New Republic credits or Imperial credits. It's that thing we kind of saw in, you know, what's it called, in The Mandalorian, which again, juxtaposing that with, you know, The Bad Batch. Bring in your Republic credits, we'll trade them in for Imperial credits. Okay, fine. Then you get to, you know, Mandalorian, which is 5 years after, and there's this issue where it's like, okay, so what credits are these? Okay, these are Mon Cal credits. Okay, these are Republic credits. That has no value here. We only take Imperial credits out here. Like, that whole thing is kind of, you know, the same. The other issue that that this comes with is when they are trying to figure out how to get back to their planet, no one knows what this planet is. Like, everyone thinks it's a joke because apparently it's a planet of myth, and they live there. And it's a weird situation to be in because we're seeing so much of this through the perspective of the kids. There's so much we don't know. Kind of like, what was that movie that Kenneth Branagh did? Belfast, where it's like we are kept in the dark because we're seeing the movie from the perspective of Buddy. I believe that was the kid's name. And because we're seeing the movie from the perspective of Buddy, there's a lot of information we don't know, and that's fine. Here it feels like we're just withholding information in a way that's kind of annoying. Where it's like, okay, so why, like, so this planet is allegedly mythical, and it has this mythical treasure. So what does that mean for these characters? If it has this mythical treasure, it's like, why has no one on the planet heard of it? What is the mythical treasure that everyone wants? Okay, we're only 2 episodes in. Maybe they'll explain that more later. But fundamentally, the issue is, like, why is that happening? And then, clearly the barrier is some kind of barrier around the planet that, you know, you can't go past. Because they don't want anyone to know about the planet. We're looking at, like, I would assume, a Camino situation. But the broader thing that I have with this is I don't know that, like, what, like, you have a few good ideas here, and that's kind of, like, this is where I was going with this. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. You have a few good ideas in play here, don't get me wrong. I like the idea of this planet that's kind of isolated out. I like the idea of this planet that is mythical to pirates. No one knows where it is, but there's allegedly a massive treasure on it. Both of those are interesting ideas. I'm not sure how well these two ideas are going to dovetail, because, like, the idea that, like, this planet is so cut off, and it's like, how are these kids going to deal with the fact that, like, if they still think the Republic never fell, and everything is still the Republic, how are they going to deal with the change? Or it's like, no, the Republic fell, was replaced by a fascist empire, and now it's back to being a Republic that's still trying to set itself up. Like, that's an interesting place to put these kids, because it totally flips their entire worldview about what's true and what's not true. The issue is, it's like, I don't think either of these is going to be properly expanded on. And again, I don't think we should expect either of these to be properly expanded on, besides the treasure thing. Because at the end of the day, this is clearly designed to invoke Goonies, it's clearly designed to invoke, you know, any number of, like, what was it, John Hughes, or not John Hughes, I mean, John Hughes is more what John Watts did before this in Spider-Man, but, like, Amblin production kind of thing, where it's a bunch of kids, they're getting together, E.T., Goonies, that kind of thing. And it's about these kids trying to, do this. And to that end, the issue becomes like, how are they going to, what's the word here? How are they going to rectify that? Because it's like you're introducing these broad ideas that are kind of cool. My problem is I don't think that any of it's particularly going to be well executed. I don't have confidence in this show to properly do what needs to be done in terms of bringing home the more macro parts of this story that they're clearly introducing. And that's kind of my disappointment a little bit, is that right now I'm not holding out hope, because outside of Andor, we have not had a show do that well. Introduce these giant, philosophical concepts and all of that, and then be able to arguably, The Acolyte kind of did it a little bit, but The Acolyte, was planning for a second season, so it doesn't feel complete. It's one of those things where it's like, so if this is what we're doing, and we're going to be introducing these big macro concepts, which is, okay, fine, do that, introduce these big macro concepts, let's see how they play with each other, that's okay. The issue becomes, when do we get this show kind of actually address it? And then the other issue is, are these things just not going to be addressed in Star Wars now because they don't want to retread similar territory? Which, again, is a shame, because these are really cool ways to build out the world. And even if it's not build out the world, it is spend this time. I don't know. I think the thing is, it's not really a twist. I think it's pretty clear from the beginning of the first episode that the guy in the mask is meant to be Jude Law. I think that's I don't think... I was kind of dozing off by the end of the second episode, if I'm being completely honest, so I don't know if it's explicitly that. I think it is explicitly that. Jude Law is not to be trusted, obviously, and, these kids are, dealing with it. But, that's the thing, too, is that it's, the idea of, this world has been insulated from the Empire is kind of an interesting thing. And what I would like to see is how they did that. How did they keep this world insulated from the Empire and insulated from the fall of the Republic? And the thing is, too, it's, considering where we are, and Star Wars has always done a great job of kind of not great job, it's done reasonable jobs sometimes of reflecting where we are in reality, where it's the original trilogy is about the Vietnam War, and then, and where the Empire is meant to be America, and then you get to, the Episode 3 is very clearly about the relationship between, not clearly, Lucas said it, but it's about the relationship between Bush and Cheney. It's this idea that, it's meant to reflect reality, and Star Wars has always been political. The coding of everything as very, white suburban. That's the thing, is that, you look around at what this thing looks like. It looks like affluent suburbia in New York, in Pennsylvania, in these rich, very white suburbs in real life, is what it's designed to look like. And the idea that you have this planet that's basically entirely that has insulated itself from a war entirely, is a really interesting idea. And there's a really interesting idea to play with about how this thing has essentially cut itself off from fascism and kind of been like, well, we're going to do what we want to do. We're going to ignore that and just pretend it doesn't happen. The cutting themselves off to the suffering around the galaxy is a really interesting idea. I just don't think they're going to play with it enough. And I think that that's ultimately where this is. There's a lot of really cool macro things in play. I just don't think they're going to be played with enough. And I think that at the end of the day, we're probably going to get a passable show about, about these kids on this adventure and trying to find out who they want to be. Like, that's what this show's going to obsessively be about. But the problem is, it's like, it'll be passable, but I don't think it's going to be anything truly great by the time all is said and done. But we'll wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be next week when we talk about episode 3 of this show. So, until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.